Everything has AFib.
Hello, everybody. We are here again with another Real 50 Over 50 interview. And this week we have Brynn Breuner. She is an unconventional brand strategist who translates vision into words. With endless curiosity and a natural talent for connecting the dots, Brynn has a unique ability to untangle complex ideas. She uses your history, experience, and innate gifts to create TED-level ideas, messaging, and business offers. Brynn helps entrepreneurs, innovators, and original thinkers get unstuck, tap into the heart of their work, and communicate with a quiet and easy confidence. She likes to say less, and you could be so much more. So, welcome, Brynn.
Thank you. So happy to be here with you.
I'm happy that you're here. So, Brynn and I go way, way, way back. How many years? Maybe 2010-ish?
Yeah, actually, it's probably 2014 or 2013. But there was a round table in New York City, and there you were, like best thing that ever happened, meeting you at conference.
That was fun. We were at a conference together, and I was critiquing the social media speaker on the stage.
I just was a pup, I was like eyes wide open because I was stepping into a whole new kind of phase of what my business was going to be all about, and moving from graphic design into this whole new thing called branding, and was sort of shell shocked about what it could be. So it was a
Yeah,
fun time.
and all the things that go with it that they don't tell you about.
Yeah.
So let's just kind of dive right in. And I know that you are past 50, but I have a question for you, because this has been something that has come up for me as I've been doing these interviews, and you are number 58 of the Real 50 Over 50 interviews. So one of the things that I noticed, because we've been interviewing a lot of women that are in their 60s and 70s, it's not just 50, but they kind of reference the 50s as like the teenage years, and the 60s you kind of settle more into this new version of who you are.
I so feel that. It's funny. The new teenage years. Yeah. So something happened to me when I was 60. I remember sitting on the couch and I had this flash. Oh, I was going through old books trying to like downsize, take things to the dump. And I had this flash. I was like, oh my God, I'm in the prime of my life. And then I just burst out laughing like, you got to be kidding, 60? And then I thought about it and I thought, yeah, like physically things don't work as well as they did. But in terms of everything else, it felt like actually everything's coming online. The
Yeah.
opposite of everything I'd ever heard. And as those years click by, I feel that stronger and stronger. I'm one of the weird people that never really cared about how old you were. Like, oh, I don't want to tell. Like I always thought getting older was a free gift. I'm
Yeah.
here. And now, like this, 64, it's like, it just feels like everything's coming online.
Mm.
And I
Like,
feel so lucky.
mm. Um, it's like, settling into your own skin in an entirely different way.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting us to talk about that, but it's so alive for me.
Mhm.
So I've been doing an experiment a la Liz Gilbert, Big Magic, who says she's been doing this for 20 years, this thing called Letters from Love. And I've been
Mhm.
doing this now for about 8 months, Letters from
Mhm.
Love. Not every day, 3 times a week, sitting down, love, what would you have me know today? And not just love, but like unconditional love, which is ferocious to me. Yeah, a free gift for sure. Love, what would you have me know? And then you got to hang out and wait. So it's not your voice, but it's much bigger voice. And
Mhm.
what's coming from that is this conversation that's so real and steadying and filling. People can hear their guides and they can hear this, and mine must be talking to me in Morse code. I don't really, but this thing with love is very direct and very speaking in my language. And I have a tapped in conversation to what I need to know all the time. And it
Mhm.
has created I was thinking of how would I describe this? I don't really know. Almost like if you could say astonished in the quietest voice, present and astonished. So when things are coming online, that's how it feels,
Mhm.
astonished.
Yeah.
And I
It
wouldn't trade
really,
it for anything.
yeah, I subscribe to that as well. I get her email every Sunday,
Hmm.
and I haven't really spent a lot of time with it, but I'm going to. And but the way, like, I just turned 60 last week, and I've been thinking about it a lot, and I'm really immersed in this world of women over 50, and it just felt like something that needed to be celebrated. It felt like this rite of passage, and
Hmm.
mm, that there is just good stuff on the other side. It just nothing about it felt negative.
Nothing about it felt negative. And so I've been having these experiences over the last few days. I did a kind of a mini huge road trip over the last 4 days, got back last night. And it started with driving from Reno down to Berkeley, where we had a celebration for Cal Women's Crew, kind of a reunion. And one of my best friends is a few years older than me and was one of the kind of the original. She was an Olympian and she usually speaks, and she was like, "How did I do? How did I do? Was it okay?" And it's like, "Do you want to know how you really did?" And I was like, she said, "Yes." And I said, "There were times when you were too far away from the microphone and we couldn't hear you that well. And every other moment, you were brilliant. And this, like, everything feels very clear. We have
Mhm.
the opportunity to lean towards all the ways that we diminish ourselves and shrink and contract, or we can be done with that and turn towards who we actually are. We
Yeah,
can just let go of the shrinking and
yeah,
step in. And it feels very direct. And I feel like that's coming from that letters from love practice. Like, are you done now? Are you done with the nonsense? And that's what it feels like.
yeah, yeah. And in my life now where, there's nobody to take care of but me, and like
Mhm.
one cat who sleeps 18
One
hours a
hat.
day.
Yeah.
But I mean, like you and I over the years, we have celebrated and commiserated that we're both solo parents of one
Mm.
boy,
One
and
boy.
of one boy, but there's a lot of pouring into that one boy that we have both
Mhm.
done, and a lot of sacrifices that we've made of ourselves and our time and our effort and our experience and whatever else, man, the list can go on. But how was that for you when your son went off to into the big world on his own?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I'm I kind of can't really think about how hard it was because it sort of breaks me.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
I sort of have to gloss over that
yeah,
because and be a little bit Pollyanna-ish about it because I'm a glass half full kind of gal.
yeah.
And
No, but go talk about the parts that you can talk about.
yeah,
I don't want to
and
drag
that
you through re-traumatizing yourself.
so it's not so much trauma, but it's like doing all of the things, making all of the money,
Yeah,
spending all the time, making all the meals and all that. Like people would say, "Oh my God, how'd you do that on your own?" And I part of me thinks, well, I expected to do it on my own, so it wasn't a big deal.
yeah,
Like it was the expectations
yeah,
set the course, and and it was hard. So what I remember as the hardest part, especially when they were little, was what I would call being split, like having a little boy who needed you and having clients that needed you, and neither of them got your best attention, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
that was miserable.
Yeah.
There's no other way to put it. Like,
Yeah.
it was miserable to not take this sweet kid to do the fun trips that you'd want to do.
Mhm.
And I'm also remembering things that, so one moment I'll share with you about this kid going off into the world. Um, and and he's a young man, and he's a, I do it myself, right? Grown tall. And one of the things that he remembers, and I remember, is we had a lot of language games. Interestingly enough, my world is so about language. And we'd play this game. I remember walking down our old street. It's like, think of a word, and the word I'm thinking of is trunk. Like, how many different definitions of the word trunk could we come up with? It's spring now, and the trees are leafing out. And at that moment, back then, I feel like he was 6 or 7. They were all leafed out too. The thing in your car, the thing on the elephant, the thing that goes on a steamer, right? Like
Mhm.
the thing in the back of the car. So he was telling me not very long ago, my son, the economist, that one of the things that he appreciates most about how he is in the world is his facility with language. And he goes, Mom, I feel like you gave that to me, this love of language. And I remember, a long time ago when Jim Bree was our client and studying child development, Jim Bree was saying, our job is to bathe them in language for that first year.
Mhm.
And I loved that. So I may not have had the big airplane trips, but I had so much fun bathing this person in language
Yeah.
and wondering with him. I remember driving across the Bay Bridge. They had to rebuild the Bay Bridge,
Mhm.
and they built like out of guy wires. And I remember him saying, Mom, what if we played the what if game? What if like each of those guy wires was tuned to a different note, and when the wind blew through, it would like make like songs or sounds, and it'd be like, yeah, what if? So we were always going to the computer to sort of
Mhm.
figure things out. I loved having this person in my life that I didn't have to know all the answers to. Be like, oh, let's go figure that out.
Yeah.
That was the joyful part of parenting, was
Mhm.
not
Mhm.
having to know. The
And
having to know parts were a little harder. Like,
yeah.
if you got in a fight, what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
He was a
When you have
big
nobody to bounce it off of.
yeah. Like, am I supposed to be stern? Like, he got in his first fight, and I end up taking him out for ice cream because I thought what he got in a fight for was probably pretty smart. I remember when he got his F, I took him out for ice cream. It's like, we don't care about that other stuff.
Mhm.
Like, so it's fun to look at it in total and hope I did a good enough job.
I think you did. I think you did.
You know
And,
what I mean?
like, I always because I kinda knew I was raising mine alone too, um, and I just found it was easier to not fight with somebody about everything.
Yeah.
Every little decision, and, like you did with language, I did the same with music with my son.
Oh, you
'Cause
did.
from the time he was, like, 3, every Sunday night, what we did was we sat on the couch with the laptop, and we just watched YouTube videos of music, and we called it Music
Nice.
Appreciation Sunday, and he
Oh,
thanks me all the time for giving him his love of music.
yeah. And look at him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's like it's so true. I mean, like, we may not have been able to do a lot of the big high ticket things, but we both made decisions to be there and to be available 24/7. And
What's funny, Donna, is I had a theory of parenting way back then, and it's still there. When I was in college, I studied geomorphology, which is landscape, like how landscapes are born, like volcanoes and glaciers. And my theory of parenting, I called it hotspot parenting. It's like
mhm,
when continental plates move over the earth, there's hotspots come up, and that's volcanoes. And I figured my job was actually to just move him across the world until he hotspots discovered him,
mhm,
and then give him those hotspots.
mhm,
And it turned out to be the upright bass. He was
Mhm.
a music boy too, and got
Mhm.
into choir, and like he got into chess, and it's like I didn't have to know how to play chess, but I
Mhm.
just had to move him over the things that he
Yeah.
loved and
Yep.
let him find the people that loved him back,
Mhm.
because I knew I couldn't carry the whole world for him. Just
No.
move him over the hot spots.
Yeah. Yeah. And being open to possibility, you know,
Mhm.
anything is possible. And I think we both kind of went from that perspective. Um, okay, let's transition out of parenting.
Okay. Okay,
Now
quit
that we've
talking about
agreed
it
that
more.
we've both done an incredible job. But, let's talk a little bit. I know one of the things that you are, really passionate about is working with people who are polyminds.
Mm.
So let's
You
talk
wanna
about
know what? The truth of that
finding.
is it actually came from my son, and I'll tell you real briefly. This is he would say, "Mom, that's my story to tell," but there was a point in time where he was in despair of, "Why am I not like other people?" And it was very clear to me, it's like, "But look how you actually are.
Mhm,
Look how your brain is wired." Um, and it was remarkable to me, and then I that got me thinking, "Oh, well, if his is wired like that, how is everybody else's?" And that led me kind of on a and I would say, that's been easily 8 years of inquiry about how are people's brains set up? Specifically, what do they notice? And so about 3 years ago when, a friend and colleague said, "Well, Brynn, who are your ideal clients?" Because I was focusing on helping people with that. It's like at that point, I was heavily involved with the TED community, helping train speakers. And it's like, well, like TED people, people who do weird, cool, and exciting stuff, thinking,
mhm.
well, that's pretty much takes care of that. No. So
Uh,
I had to really sink into that. Like, who are they? And I made a long, long list of what do they like? What do they not like? And then I kind of clumped them into what these 5 categories are of what I thought like a polymath, somebody who studies deeply into like Da Vinci studies several topics deeply, and a polymathic mind is somebody who goes into all sorts of different things deeply, like
mhm,
a mini PhD. And now I see them everywhere. One of my favorite ones is the woman that started Milk Bar,
mhm,
Christina Tosi. So when I heard her interview, it was like ding 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 ding. She's like, "Oh, well, I studied mathematics and Italian in college, and then I was helping another chef with the something about the exhaust system in his building." And it's like, so it's that kind of facility, and it's not like I can't figure out what to do, so I'm just going to keep hopping around. It's not like I'm
mhm,
just a hopscotcher. It's like I'm fascinated by this and then this, and it none of it matters what they are. The
mhm.
one thing that does matter is they're all driven by curiosity.
Yeah.
That's what I found. And then the second thing that they all have in common is those things come with you. So Christina Tosi didn't leave mathematics and Italian behind
Mhm,
when she became this, when she fell in love with cooking the things that she always liked to cook in her kitchen with her mom and grandma,
mhm,
you know, cereal milk. She didn't leave that stuff behind. It informs it. And so finally, that gave me an understanding of myself, right? But also, and it's like, oh, you're not weird. That's just how you're wired.
mhm,
And it's like, oh, so all my life having felt like an odd duck or jack of all trades, why can't you figure it out? Like everybody else seems to figure it out. Suddenly I realized, well, like I didn't really want to figure out what they were all figuring out. I loved my life. I loved what I thought about. And I just suddenly understand why the way I'm wired doesn't work in those sort of traditional settings. And once I figured that out, I figured out how it was a remarkable asset to help me do the work that I do. And so now I help other people figure out how they are incredible assets in their own field. And again, it doesn't matter what it is.
yeah.
It's like how you are an asset. And the trick turned out to be not what you do, but how you do it. And it's interesting because I feel like that whole what do you do? There's a there's a there's a little bomb involved in a job title.
Yeah.
Oh, like I just was with a friend is like, oh, I work with New York Life. Bomb. Like the meaning that just sort of
Yeah.
destroyed an understanding, a connection between you
Because
and
it's not
me.
you. It's not, you're just plugging into a thing.
It's a thing. And
Yeah.
so for people that a job title really doesn't work for, like me or you, it's like, oh, then it's like, oh. So I have to tell you, I had so people come to me because they're stuck on language, on what to say. I help people with elevator pitches. So, oh, the irony. I was at this crew function this past weekend, and I was in this conversation with a woman who was a 2-time gold medal winner. And I was so focused on what she was saying, kind of, what do you do after this gold medal run? Who are you?
Mhm.
I was not in any kind of a business setting, so I wasn't thinking at all. So when she said, Brynn, what do you do? I completely muffed it, almost like a cartoon. And I was kind of amazed because I didn't go, you idiot. I was laughing to myself later, like, wow, you so muffed it. And then I thought, oh, I have so much compassion for how hard that is.
Mhm.
And then I thought, wow, we really have to have something I call a handful of words ready. And they're not a job title.
No.
And if you're an OBGYN, that's great. You get to have
Yeah.
that job title, right? Like I met somebody that
Even
night
that, I
who's
mean,
a
there's so
who's
many
a
variations of OBGYN, you know?
and that night I met someone who's an anesthesiologist for cardiothoracic surgeons. It's like awesome. That's super specific. But for the rest of us, so I thought, wow, we need to have a handful of words. And it's not a pitch. Like it's literally like a half a dozen words. So
It's
I
an
realized I've got to be able to say something
yeah.
simple as I take out the complexity of ideas and have that be a door opener and
Mhm.
zip it up.
Yeah, because and then the person on the receiving end of that is curious,
They
and they
get
wanna
say,
know
"Then
more.
what do you mean?" And now we're off to the races.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah,
So
exactly. And, you had mentioned earlier when we started to talk about polyminds, you mentioned 5 things that you came up with. What are those 5 things?
let's see if I can remember. Number one is a super seer. So a
Mhm,
polymind can see the forest and the trees. I keep thinking of it like a periscope.
mhm,
You can go up and see the big picture and the details all at the same time. Most people don't know that they're doing that.
mhm,
They're super translators. Polyminds speak in many different languages. My first language happens to be, I didn't figure this out for the longest time because I was just doing it, is metaphor. My
mhm,
first language is metaphor. That gives me a great asset though when I'm trying to figure out messaging. Oh, do you mean like this?
mhm,
It's a shortcutter for
mhm,
sure. We're sense makers, we're synthesizers. So polymakers are able to synthesize ideas. And when I think of this, I think of Venn diagrams, Donna. And if ideas happen at the intersection of this and this, like Christina Tosi, mathematics and cooking, where they scrape together are new possibilities.
mhm,
And so since polyminds are thinking of all sorts of things, there's a whole lot of ideas scraping
mhm,
along, just kind of kablowing. I think that polyminds are able to see, let's see, when we say, I just need to make sense of that.
mhm,
Um, some people want to memorize facts. I just did a big exam and I was watching how different people like made sense of the information. Some people memorized facts. I was trying to make sense of the language itself.
mhm,
Polyminds can see the through line between
mhm,
in a complex situation. And I think I've given you four,
mhm,
and I would have to find the fifth. But the basic sense of a polymind is many things at the same time. So we can zoom in and out. We can speak. multiple languages at the same time. And that
Mm,
might be I can speak engineering and I can speak quiet. Like
mhm.
my sense is a quiet sense because I want to listen to you. I was thinking a long time ago, I thought I kind of want to be like a human tuning fork. And it's I want to hear who you are. And lately what I've come to understand is I I sense the feeling of a word. I sense the truth of the feeling of a word. That's how I play with messaging.
Yeah.
So I know now that I bring all of those things to play. So if you say, "Well, Brynn, what do you do?" Then I'm no wonder I got a little bit lost,
Mhm,
right?
mhm.
It's like,
And
"Oh,
also you were in a group of people that you're not usually with, like, when you're in a group of people that all do unique things or, like, some mishmash of whatever,
yeah."
you can speak to that, but you were probably sitting there thinking, "Whatever I say, they're not gonna get."
Actually, I wasn't thinking that at all. I was thinking, How can I support you?" And I
Mm,
was thinking driving around thinking, "Wow, if I was in like a convention of poets, I might have said something like, 'I'm like a piece of chlorophyll, like reaching toward,' like I could have said something completely useless." But I feel like language is the way that we find our own truth in many ways. And it doesn't Engl business is this fabulous expression of that.
mhm.
But it's, your son and
It's how you
you
do
are into
everything.
music. I feel like language is kind of the music of us, of how we
Mhm.
express ourselves as humans.
Yeah, and, one of the things that I've been saying forever is listening is the most underutilized skill, and,
Mm,
from everything that you were describing, it's all about listening, and listening on a deep level, and,
mhm.
um, almost like the visualization I get is like a car wash, and, like, everything goes through that car wash, and
Yeah.
everything that's falling around that are all of those parts of you that are
Makes makes
deciphering.
me wonder if, like, if there's, like, how many different ways of listening are there actually? Like, I wonder if listening is the umbrella, but actually what's going on is 8 different things are involved in
Mhm.
listening.
Yeah. There's a book that I wanna read. It's called Adaptive Listening,
Mm.
and it was, created by 2 women that work for, Nancy Duarte.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
used
think
to
you'll like
follow
it.
her I used to follow her and say, "Nancy Duarte." What a wonderful mind. What a wonderful mind all these people are that you're talking to.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yeah, that's next on my list to read, and, it's so true when you really start to lead with listening, um, you just hear things. It's like the difference between driving in a car and taking a bike ride, you know?
mhm.
Because, like, you can drive that road 100 times, but when you ride it on a bike, you'll see things you never saw before.
Right, and the way they inform all the inputs. I was with somebody up in Oregon, and I realized what she's doing is she has a facility for design in interiors, and it's like, oh, she's creating enchantment. It's like
Mhm,
the feeling that she's giving a space is enchantment. And it's like, God, I could never do that, but oh, that's what it is. So it's the feeling that she's creating.
mm. But I think also when you lead with the listening, it's not just that, you're, doing, taking these different parts, but you're calling them in.
Oh, that's great.
Right? Because you have these different abilities, and
Mhm.
you're calling them in, and they kind of merge together
Mm.
every time in a very unique way, in a way they never have
I
before.
I wonder if people that are really good cooks are listening with their food and their senses like that,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah, I
food is
can't follow a
flowing
recipe.
in. But don't you imagine that's what they're doing? They're, like, listening, what does that cilantro want today?
Yeah, yeah.
Huh.
I mean, that's how I operate. I mean, I like, when I was early days of my business, I was trying to delegate things that I couldn't possibly delegate because I didn't like, it was me, but I didn't realize yet that it was
Oh,
me.
right. How
And
can
I was
you delegate
trying I
you?
was trying to delegate this, like, thing that I couldn't even explain.
And that probably explains why it's hard for me to find employees to do pieces of me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've got to learn how to separate the parts that are, um, that you can successfully delegate and the things that, you just need to own. And I think all of us as small business owners are in that boat because we wouldn't be able to do what we do without having that ability.
It's helped a lot to sort of say, okay, that's the polymind part. Okay.
Hmm.
And this is some other thing. And that part you can give away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Like,
not just give away, but that's the part you could explain.
yeah, right. And someone else can explain better than me. So yay.
Okay, so we have hit 30 minutes,
All
and
right.
the way I like to round up these interviews is to ask for a wisdom bomb. Like, what do you want people to know? Maybe it's an actionable tip, or maybe it's just something that you've learned along the way that you want to pay forward.
I think that when we're all talking about trying to find the right words to say what we mean, what's happening underneath, the truth of the feeling of the words is what matters more. And that does come from the listening, and that does come from the being. So maybe just pause for a minute and feel what's true for you, and that'll let you feel what's true for them too.
That's beautiful. Okay, so thank you for spending some time today and sharing a little about who you are and what you do. And everybody, please connect with Brynn. She is, of course, on the Real 50 Over 50 webpage, but she's also the CEO of MindsparkBranding.com, and you can find her there and learn more about what she's doing and connect with her.
Thank
And
you, Donna.
we will be back next week. Next week, we have another interview on Wednesday, and we have a panel on Thursday. So join us again.
Thank you.
Thanks.